I was wrong too. I have to admit, and a lot of people were wrong. I just think an apology. I didn't really hear an apology. He also said
accountability.
But no duh. I mean, was there any doubt that he was accountable for this? Was it also? I'm not 1,000% sure, and even Haslam's words. Was it totally a mistake? Because none of us knew it was a mistake. Deshaun Watson was a really good quarterback. You can't predict how off-field stuff's going to affect on-field play. Sure. There are all sorts of criminals running around that field. So I do think I understand why you say that.
Make it sound like it's in like San Quentin or something.
No. There are all sorts of guys who've gotten in off-field stuff. Not criminals. That was a terrible word to say that. But, there are a lot of guys who've had off-field problems.
Yeah, and come back from it.
Yeah, I've come back for tons and tons of guys. So I think, honestly, we all have to be a little, we're all playing a little money more quarterback on Deshaun Watson. At least I am. I thought he was going to be good. The guy got hurt a million times, and I think he was not able to separate his terrible off-field stuff.
Yeah.
That we didn't know. So Haslam taking accountability, but... Yeah, I don't know.
Do you get full credit for when it's clearly such a dumpster fire situation that, obviously. Now, he didn't throw anyone under the bus here, which I don't know if he would do, even as a bad owner as I think he is. He said it was like an organizational decision and the buck stopped with us. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Jimmy Haslam takes accountability. Fine. The bigger question is now, what do the Browns do? Because I think the draft really starts with them.
Sure.
Because if the Titans are going to probably take Cam Ward, then what are the Browns going to do? And to me, it always felt like, wow, doesn't Shedeur Sanders just solve a lot of problems for you? He's a quarterback that has the skill set like a lot of Kevin Stefanski quarterbacks, guys who stand in the pocket and whose best attribute is their accuracy and toughness. Yeah. And so... yeah, maybe Shedeur seems to fit that bill. If this was Greg Roman or someone like that, who is famously an offense coordinator who likes running quarterbacks, then maybe this doesn't make that much sense. But for Stefanski, it seems like it makes sense. Shedeur just checks a lot of boxes, and the other box he checks is the fame box, which is infusion of a well-known person who can get the bad taste of Deshaun out of everyone's mouth.
Yeah, which is, by the way, one irony. Shedeur never stands in the pocket. That guy runs around like crazy.
Well, maybe with a better offensive line.
He can't.
He sees himself in the mold of Tom Brady.
He could if he had a better O-line, probably stand in the pocket. But he was always running for his life in Colorado in the pocket. I totally agree with that. That brings up a big question to me. Would you take a guy like that just to get off this narrative of Deshaun Watson? Is that why you would take Shedeur? And if so, are they going to do that?
Okay, so I thought yes, right? And to me, I thought, this. I don't know if this is all smoke screens. Everyone's going to be at Shedeur's Pro Day, which is happening sometime this week. Okay, then we get more information coming out of these meetings in Palm Beach. And Diana Rossini, who's as plugged in as anybody, had an interesting take on the Browns. And basically with Jimmy Haslam coming out and saying, we had a big swing and a miss with Deshaun Watson, and now we have to dig ourselves out of it. Essentially what Diana is saying is, can they all afford to take another big swing on Shedeur? Because even if you think Shedeur fits a lot of what the Browns need, nobody really thinks he's worthy of the second overall pick, maybe a late first rounder. So what could be the more safe and reliable option? Here's Diana.
Which brings us to Kirk Cousins, right? Is that a real thing for Atlanta to trade Kirk to Cleveland? From my sense, yes. It's a real. I don't know how far along it is right now. I just know there's enough smoke around this and enough conversations being had that this would not be a surprising move. Knowing Kevin Stefanski coached Kirk Cousins when he was in Minnesota, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so that's Diana saying the safe move is Cousins, and then it allows the Browns to take the best player available with that second pick, whether they think it's Abdul Carter, whether they think it's Travis Hunter. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly logic to that. But, we talked about Shedeur would be more exciting. When Cousins showed up in Cleveland last week at Chipotle, nobody cared. It struck me as, remember we used to track Peyton Manning's plane and Brett Favre's plane? Kirk Cousins openly shows up in Cleveland at a fast food restaurant, and everyone's like, "Oh, isn't that funny? Kirk Cousins can't even go to a high-end restaurant."
I don't think anyone thinks it was a coincidence that happened to be in Cleveland in March.
No. I'm saying like everyone thinks he's going to the Browns, and I honestly think like they become almost irrelevant with Kirk Cousins. Like we're talking like one primetime game, the 3 game. Even if they're good, like, oh man, you're aiming for mediocrity with Kirk Cousins. So if you want excitement, this is the opposite.
Right.
Literally the opposite. You got Kirk Cousins wearing his Cole's outfit at a Chipotle instead of Shedeur Sanders showing up with that. Did you see Shedeur's necklace at the combine? I mean, that was the opposite of
He's
Kirk
flashy
Cousins.
guy.
And you bring Dion and you bring success. So you have 2 choices here: boring or exciting. What you're sort of quoting Diana is it's time for boring there in Cleveland.
That's what they may think. Like it's been a lot, and the Deshaun stuff was a lot. So is it time for boring? But I think to your point of view, I don't know how you can look at Kirk Cousins now though and say this is a sure thing. Okay, more than a draft pick, because we've never seen Shedeur take a snap in the NFL.
Oh, okay,
but it's not that Kirk is. He definitely got hurt last year. And he is not that far removed from the Achilles. He played through a shoulder injury.
Yeah, was that real?
Yeah, I think it was. I think he was trying to hide it, I guess, from the organization so that they wouldn't go to Penix. I definitely think it was real. But,
I thought they they eventually went to Penix just because Kirk was not playing well.
Well, he said that he was hiding a shoulder injury. That's what he said at the Super Bowl. So I just think you're riding with now a mid-30s quarterback who, if he doesn't have like any escapability or something happens with the lower body, like you're cooked. And so I think so. I don't see how Kirk Cousins is he's safer, sure. By how much though? Because you're not sure he can even make it through a season.
But he's safer because you have no commitment to him. It's 1 year and you're done. So that's a much safer proposition.
Well, is it 1 year? Because Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. Let's not forget about that. We're talking about Kirk Cousins and now the Cleveland Browns, and Diana Rossini reporting that there's a lot of smoke here, and now they wouldn't take Shedeur, and with the second overall pick, they'd take Kirk and then take Abdul Carter or whatever. Yeah,
I think Kirk is way safer. I mean, that deal, I assume it's on the same deal that he signed, which is basically a 2-year deal with Atlanta. There's no way that the penalty of a Kirk Cousins deal can be an albatross like Deshaun Watson. I think they're pretty much out of the deal, assuming it's the same deal. And then they can move on next year. If you swing, they don't want to take another big swing on Shedeur because that's 4 years of figuring out Shedeur. I think that's a big swing. I think there's way less risk in signing Kirk Cousins and going Abdul Carter. It's the Shedeur risk is massive.
It is, but I think the upside is obviously way higher.
Right, that's the deal with risk.
That's the deal with risk. So 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Now let's not forget this part of it. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who the flirtation between like Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers, now it's like I'm starting to cringe a little bit. This is like becoming like a bad rom-com. Like just kiss already. Like I just can't, he's doing the throwing session with DK Metcalf and they're circling each other, but for some reason Rodgers hasn't signed on the dotted line. If Rodgers is still A, holding out for the Vikings, B, considering retirement, D, my pick, waiting till Mercury is out of retrograde until he can put pen to paper, Mr. Astrologer, numbers guy, whatever.
Don't be a freaking weirdo.
Too late. I wonder if Cousins, again, no trade clause, and if Pittsburgh would pivot to Cousins. Like, all of a sudden, and Diana and Chase Daniel, who they do their podcast, we just played you a clip, said, look at Kirk. All of a sudden, he's got power again. Because he's got the no trade clause, and if something happens with Rodgers and the Steelers, and if it falls through, does Kirk now become, does he now picking between these two AFC North teams?
Right, and his only competition is Joe Flacco and Carson Wentz. And by the way, I think he's right now with his injury history, he's kind of right and fits with those guys. He's not that much better. It's so funny. I like him more in Cleveland. I feel like Kirk Cousins in Pittsburgh is a bit of a disappointment because I just think he'd be a little. You laid out, he's a little brittle for what the Steelers want.
Yeah, so here's my thing. If I'm the Browns, I'm not going to mince words here. I go with Shedeur. I'm going with Shedeur because you want to know what? If I go with Kirk Cousins, maybe he's the air quote safer option. I might still get fired. Kirk Cousins is not coming in and saving a lot of jobs, okay? Like he's not the salve that people think he is, in my opinion. So to me, I know that they just took a big risk with Deshaun and it blew up in all their faces. The Shedeur thing is not the same kind of risk. Shedeur is flashy. He's got absolutely nothing like the dark cloud that Deshaun Watson has hanging over his head with all those allegations.
Well, right,
but it's completely different.
It's a football risk. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Shedeur is
He's a breath of fresh air. It's fun. It's like light, I think it's going to be positive. He is a good leader.
There definitely are character questions out there because he threw his teammates under the bus after one game. That was not well liked. And that particular issue was kind of weird. Teammates seem to love him, but I've read a couple times that NFL teams are like, whoa, why did he say that?
His offensive line did stink.
But that being said, he'll have to deal with a lot in Cleveland. Like he's definitely going to have to deal with the Cleveland situation, and being a Sanders, who knows where that will go because,
I bet on him. He's got so much media savvy to him. Like I'll allow a guy to say, yeah, my offensive line, he said, like, I love those guys, but we had a lot of trouble. Like,
yeah, you're not supposed to say that as a quarterback. It's kind of the worst thing a quarterback could say. Like the whole job of a quarterback is to be the leader of everybody. That was the one downside of Shedeur. I totally get it. Now the question is Deion, and this is not just him, is Deion and Shedeur going to put up with shenanigans in the Haslams and all that crap?
Well, I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Yeah. If you don't trust the Haslams, then throw your weight around and make sure he doesn't go to Cleveland. They're not doing that.
Or if he gets there and he's like, this is not a professional place. And, Deion has a high bar.
No kidding.
I wonder... I think there's a lot of risk that it's not going to be a good football team, and the Sanders family is going to be like, what the heck are we stuck in here?
Okay.
That's the risk to me. Like, I feel like Shedeur could go terribly wrong as well. Say that you have Shedeur Sanders, and they're 3-14. That's going to stink.
Okay, well, here's the thing about that. We're now talking about Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns, and Diana Rossini reporting that they may go Kirk Cousins and trade for him because it's the safer bet because they're coming out of this Deshaun Watson mess. Here's the thing, though, about Deion and getting involved and trying to steer Shedeur to a place they like. You can only do that before the draft. We're not naive here, especially not Deion. You know what you're walking into with the Browns. Okay? You can't walk into the Browns situation and say, we love it, we want to go to Cleveland. You get there, you go, oh my gosh, they're a mess. Come on. We all know they've got their issues. You can't walk in naively and then you're 6 months into this thing and say, you know what? Actually, we want New York or whatever. You got to do that now.
What if you say that, but what if they're 1-5? You don't think you're going to hear from Deion?
Well, you probably are going to be 1-5. You could be 1-5 with the Giants.
Yeah,
you're probably not going to a great team no matter what, unless you fall pretty far.
Right, but yeah, that's the thing. If you're picking number 2, particularly Cleveland, coming off, do you want that situation? Because I think, for some reason, I get the sense that Deion likes the Giants better than the Browns. If it went poorly on the Browns, I feel like he would start saying some things that the organization wouldn't like.
But isn't that a speak now or forever hold your peace?
Deion? There's no forever hold your peace.
Yeah, fair. But still, 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Let's hear from Browns fans and football fans. What would you do if you're the Browns with that second pick? Do you take Shedeur or do you trade for Kirk Cousins? I'm taking Shedeur. I'm not even thinking twice about it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, this is a battle of 2 draft experts, 2 of my favorites. Daniel Jeremiah says take Abdul Carter at 2 and Tyler Shuck at the end of the first round. And Tom McShay says take Shedeur Sanders at 2 because you have Kevin Stefanski and take a lesser defensive end. So I go with Jeremiah in this case. Go safe. Go Carter. I'm being risk averse. Well, I think it's risk averse. I think the Kirk Abdul Carter second round quarterback is the opposite of a swing and a miss.
Yeah.
It's sort of a safe bunt. You're moving the runner to third.
888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. I'm so glad you brought up baseball. Did anyone notice who's using the new Torpedo bat?
No. Who's up next?
Ellie De La Cruz from your Cincinnati Reds, but from Maggie's home run derby team. Where our season-long home run contest where we all got 3 players and we're just tallying up all their home runs for the year. I was getting a little nervous about my pick of Ellie De La Cruz because, it's been a little bit of a slow start.
Yeah.
Torpedo bat, 2 home runs last night.
I didn't wrap this up already?
You may have with Aaron Judge.
I got
not using the torpedo
all my guys
Aaron
bought
Judge.
torpedo bats too. I think all 3 did.
Ellie De La Cruz. Whatever I said about that torpedo bat yesterday, I take it all back. Use it. Who cares what the pitchers whine? De La Cruz. We got more baseball for you. More on the torpedo bat, by the way, because more and more people are weighing in on this sweeping change that just happened seemingly out of nowhere. And what's going on with the Dodgers? Got to get you up to speed on what was going on from yesterday. 888-710-4ISN, 888-710-4476. Should the Browns take Shedeur Sanders or trade for Kirk Cousins? Let's go.
Crushed.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. 30 seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back, Maggie and Perloff Show. NFL owners meetings going on. A lot of news coming out of that. A lot of debate, competition committee, a few big proposals on the table. We are talking about the Cleveland Browns situation. Jimmy Haslam, the owner, came out and said I was wrong about Deshaun Watson. That's weird. I thought he got it right. Big admission.
Yeah.
So now we determine who the Browns quarterback will be next season, as well as the Steelers trying to figure that out. I saw Mike Tomlin. The video of it just seems almost like, doesn't it feel like everybody's very close to Mike Tomlin for that interview?
So they're surrounding him. Yeah, he is sweating too, like a you-know-what in church. I don't know why. Maybe he was just coming from a workout, and sometimes the shower doesn't take. It's Palm Beach, you know.
I thought they need to give Mike Tomlin some more space, but here we are today, about 3 weeks before the draft. We're going to figure out what the Cleveland Browns are going to do at quarterback.
He didn't urinate down his leg, man. That's a great place to begin.
Fair. Two options for the Browns. They can either draft Shedeur Sanders at 2, or Diana Orsini is reporting yesterday that there is a lot of smoke around them trading for Kirk Cousins. Not just that he was spotted at a Chipotle in Cleveland last week, but there's a lot of mutual love between Kevin Stefanski and Cousins, and it's the safer pick the safer move coming off of the Deshaun Watson debacle.
Right. You had to deal with his no trade clause. So that means if you are going to, you might have to wait till after the draft because he wants to be sure you're not drafting Tyler Shuck at 28, right?
Right. And he gets thrown back into the quarterback in waiting bridge guy like he did at Atlanta.
That's a lot to ask Cleveland to wait 4 more weeks. I'm curious about the timing of that. Does Cousins go ahead and say, all right, go ahead?
Let's go to the phones, 888-710-4ISN. Mike's in Dallas. Mike, what do you think? Shedeur Sanders at 2 or trade for Cousins and be safe?
Hey, guys, what's going on, man? Long-time listener, first caller. Hey, I say this theory, right? Okay, I'm in Dallas. I love the Cowboys. I'm hearing rumblings, man. Cleveland going after Dak and Shedeur coming home to Dallas, baby. Bringing Deion back to the boys. Let's go.
Listen, is that the most fun outcome? Definitely, Mike. Definitely. The most fun outcome is a blockbuster trade where the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys gets traded to Cleveland, and now Shedeur Sanders walks in, and we just complete the circle of Jerry and Deion and Shedeur, and the prophecy gets filled. I don't think it's going to happen.
Fun for who? For Dallas. It's not fun for Cleveland. Nobody's like, oh, my God, Dak Prescott just came to Cleveland. Get me a Prescott jersey. That is not. That would be what the heck are we doing?
Maybe not because he's coming off an injury.
He's the most expensive quarterback in the NFL, 31, coming off an injury. Cleveland fans would be apoplectic if that deal happened, which is not happening because of salary cap anyway, unless the salary cap completely gets removed before April 27th.
Here's the thing about that. You got to put yourself in the shoes of a Cleveland Browns fan.
Right.
You know, you've watched failure after failure after failure at quarterback where you are seriously pining for the days of Baker Mayfield, right? And it looks like a mistake that they moved on from him. So I don't know if you can't be mad at Dak Prescott. You like Dak. He is a good quarterback. Mm-hmm. He's got a higher ceiling than Kirk Cousins. And I don't think that you would be that upset about Dak Prescott.
You got to look at the price tag. I'm seeing the Browns have $12 million of cap space. So they would have to cut a bunch of guys to fit Dak, and part of Dak is how much he's getting paid.
Well,
so
but maybe the Cowboys eat a lot of that salary.
You can't eat all that cap space. I'm not talking about money. I don't care about Jimmy Haslam's cash.
Right.
I don't think you can fit him in because you owe Deshaun a chunk this year. You owe him another chunk next year.
Yep.
So you're going with another expensive quarterback. It's time to cheap out.
888-710-4ISN. JT's in Atlanta. JT, what do you think? Shedeur Sanders for the Browns or trade for Cousins?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. And this is really why I love this show, because my soul often, relates to the pessimist, contrarian, conspiracy theorist that is Perloff. Mm-hmm. But my mind often goes with you, Maggie. And I think in this part of it, it's the same thing. Like the smart choice is obviously Shedeur, if you're thinking about it, because Kirk Cousins moves no needles either on the field or off the field, right? Like it doesn't do anything for you as an organization. And for me, I think, like when you said, was that a made up? When Perloff said, was that a made up injury? That's the same thing I said, because I watched them play, and I know that it was bad, and a hurt shoulder would explain that. But was it really a hurt, or is that just something you say when you play bad to kind of keep your stock up? But I think the other thing that I'm thinking about is that if you do take Shedeur and it does go bad, then, in a couple years, maybe you bring in Deion as the savior to kind of, the Deion effect, right?
There you go.
And you kind of boost more juice into it. He coaches his son, and, you just go off from there. And people just, whether he's a great coach or not, he's definitely a player's coach, and people seem to resonate with Deion.
JT,
and so
I think
you
you
might
just
be able
nailed
to
it.
get free agents.
Way to play 3D chess on this thing, JT, and appreciate the call, and thank you for laying it out like that, because that's certainly plausible. We just saw Deion get this major contract extension, but the buyout is not crazy. It's not Jimbo Fisher $70 million. It's like $10 million, $8 million as it goes on. Deion coaching Shedeur at some point, I think we all believe is going to happen.
You don't think this has crossed GM Andrew Barry and Coach Kevin Stefanski's mind at some point?
Oh, that Deion's coming for their job?
Yeah, you draft Shedeur, then you watch your back. That's common knowledge right now.
But if you draft Shedeur and if it doesn't work, you're out anyway.
Yeah, right. Totally true, but this feels like I think Deion is a factor. I mean, no NFL team likes active parents. The Eagles could not stand the McNabb family for years, reportedly, just because they were just very active in public complaining about this, that, and the other. Because, I think Deion's definitely an issue. I mean, come on, let's be realistic. We say it's not, and it's not a big deal. But he has a massive microphone.
Sure.
B, he's the most active sports parent other than LeBron we have out there. And C, I think that I don't think you want to be a coach with Deion criticizing you and also knowing he could take your job.
Yeah.
Deion, not only is he a sport parent, he's a successful coach in his own right with a Hall of Fame pedigree who's turned around Colorado. I think that's a scary proposition.
Wow. So you think that would keep
definitely.
the front office from taking? Okay. I mean, self-preservation is the name of the game here.
Do you think if somehow that scenario, say, Shedeur falls a little bit and lands in Dallas, you don't think Brian Schottenheimer is watching his back? He does not watch Shedeur Sanders.
Well, Brian Schottenheimer kind of gives me the hey, just happy to be here vibe.
Placeholder, yeah. I mean, basically, they ought to start printing up the sign for the office where Schottenheimer goes, just put Sanders if they draft Shedeur.
The nameplate. Rod is in Dallas. Rod, what do you think?
Hey, thank you, caller. Thanks for having my call. First-time caller. Amazing show, guys. I'm in Dallas, diehard Saints fan. But just being out here, I definitely think Shedeur will be the number one move for Cleveland. Shedeur in Dallas is not going to work. The Jones don't want to give up that power. They're not going to take Deion here. Kirk Cousins definitely won't work. I think Cleveland took a big swing on Deshaun Watson. They messed up on Baker Mayfield, and now they got egg in their face. So trying to get Dak, trying to get Kirk, I think they need to hit the restart button and start again with one of these young quarterbacks. I'm going to fall back and listen to what you guys have to say.
Rod, thanks for the call. I'm with you. This is what I say, too. I think Shedeur he solves so many issues for them. Do we know if he can play quarterback in the NFL? No clue. But he solves a lot of issues that they have at least heading into this season.
Wouldn't it also, taking Abdul Carter too and taking a quarterback later, wouldn't that partially solve issues? Say, I assume they're the second pick in the second round, which is 34. Trade up from 34 to 27 and take a quarterback there. Does that solve any of the issues for you?
No, because first of all, it's a lot. You're leaving a chance. because you don't know what other teams may be eyeing the quarterback you want, and I'm basically getting a lesser quarterback. And here's the thing about Browns fans. I think they look at Myles Garrett and they say, listen, we've had this generational pass rusher. We took him one overall. We did the right thing.
Right.
He has panned out. He just asked for a trade every which way you can, and we gave him all this money. Having that great pass rusher is awesome, but it doesn't translate to wins if you don't have the quarterback. So it's just the way the sport goes.
You know, I was thinking about this. I'll go a little against the grain on that. The defense to draft a defensive end high is the next best thing to drafting a quarterback high, because this is the best era of Browns football we've ever seen since Myles Garrett got there. They're having unprecedented success. Since 2020, 11 wins, 8 wins, 7 wins, 11 wins. Last year, 3-14. They've never had a run like that. And I think Nick Bosa has been the key to the Niners run. They took him at 2 overall. TJ Watt has led the Steelers a bunch of wins. So if you can't get a quarterback, you can argue that a defensive end can get you a bunch of wins. I think Myles Garrett has been actually a success for Cleveland.
He has, but again, you've won one playoff game. Let's define the term success. That's not that awesome.
Before he got there, their only double-digit win season was 2007 of this entire millennium. So he actually has turned that franchise around in a way.
Yeah, I think also, listen, they were strategically really trying to lose to get the quarterback. And they did 2 years of losing, where they did 2 seasons where they won 1 game.
Oh,
and they couldn't get out of their own way with the coach and all of that stuff.
Oh, you're saying the Hugh Jackson was a tank?
I think of when they
didn't even know what quarterback they wanted. They decided to think that was not a tank. That was, I don't know what that was.
Well, I mean, they did get Baker Mayfield, and he's a starter now.
But it wasn't even that. They had years and years of even mediocrity.
No, they're terrible. I'm not defending
the
Browns.
But they're being okay with Myles Garrett. I'm telling you, I'll bet you they're in the top around 15 in wins. Since 2020, 11 wins, 8 wins, 7 wins, 11 wins, and 3 wins last year. So, listen, if you get Abdul Carter and he's the guy, there's a huge upside there. That's all I'm saying.
I'm also still a little concerned about Abdul Carter's
foot. Me too.
The fact that he didn't work out at his pro day when they said he was going to work out at the pro day, and now maybe he's doing private workouts, but so far we haven't heard of any. Me
too. I honestly, don't you think that's on the Browns' mind as well in this debate?
Well, you still have Travis Hunter sitting there.
Yeah.
Okay, 888-710-4ISN. Keep them coming. Shedeur Sanders at 2 or trade for Kirk Cousins and go the safe route. Andrew Bogusch is here with the rest of the headlines. Hi.
Guys, good morning. All the headlines sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Insurance for motorcycles, boats, and RVs for protection on the road and on the water. See how much you could save at 1-800-PROGRESSIVE and Progressive.com.
Whoop.
The players and fans didn't deserve this, but ownership definitely did.
Center field, going back, Blade. It's off the wall. Racing towards second. Go! Here we go! And he's in! Oh, my! We got a cycle! Take that, Lord Grace!
That's John Shambi on the Marquee Sports Network. Cubs catcher Carson Kelly with that triple, hitting for the cycle, plus 2 walks and 5 RBI. And yes, he's the first Cub since Mark Grace to hit for the cycle. Chicago,
is that good?
Spoiling the A's first game in Sacramento, 18-3. Those are the most runs anyone's given up in a home opener in at least 100 years. A's manager Mark Kotsay.
We played bad defense. We gave away free bases. We walked 10 people, so that kind of sums up the night for us. Not a good showing on our first night in.
Our owners are dope.
Things were great.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice, what's going on with the scores here?
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln.
We're, early on in the year, usually when the weather's a little bit colder and all that, you're used to scoring being down.
Pedo bats.
Yeah, it's got to be right?
Well,
Royals scored 11 runs. I'm sorry. White Sox put up 9. Orioles 8-5 over the Red Sox. I'm just going through the scoreboard. The Mets scored 10 runs yesterday. The Reds 14 runs. I mean, they've scored more, put more points on the board than the Steelers in all of December. I mean, how is this happening?
Or the Giants all season.
What's that?
Or the Giants all season.
Totally. I mean, the 18 that you just mentioned from the Cubs. What's happening? Is it just the bat?
Well, I don't know who's using the torpedo bat. Ellie De La Cruz is in that Reds game, and he had 2 home runs last night. Pete Alonso isn't and had a grand slam. I think there are concerns in Sacramento about what this ballpark is going to be offensively,
but
too.
I thought the dimensions, we already knew the dimensions were fine.
No,
I thought it's right on par with other major league parks.
that was my first thought last night, was that this place is gonna feed runs for Major League bats.
Also, it'd be the same thing in Tampa. But again, we know the dimensions.
But it could be the air too, right? I mean, that's the big
I'm not saying that. I know the fence is not 200 feet away. I think it's gonna track as a hitter's park,
right?
And the A's are not necessarily
they're not very good
top to bottom,
right?
As we're learning about the Brewers, too, if they're getting shellacked by the Yankees all weekend.
Yeah, that might not have been the bats. The pitching might just be garbage.
Right.
I was trying to figure out. I was a little lost there. I couldn't figure out how Ricky Leday was the center fielder going back on that ball. I was like, isn't that guy retired by now? But it's someone named J.J. Leday?
Yeah, whole different name, different family.
Yeah, it sounded a little like Leday, though, right?
It did.
Yeah. Wow. I'm like, that guy is like, he's like Julio Franco. He's still in the game.
He's going to be confused in a few years when the other Max Muncy makes it to the big leagues, and there's going to be 2 Max Muncies in MLB.
Well, that's a common name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, I'm not apologizing for not knowing the A's lineup. I mean,
you don't need to. There are people. Almost the entire Miami Marlin lineup yesterday were people that I had never knew were alive before.
Is Ichiro Suzuki still on that team?
He should be. He probably could
Probably
be.
a leadoff.
Yeah.
Pearl, was this your take? I can't remember that you don't think hitting for the cycle is that impressive, or did I make that up?
Well, no, that sounds like me. Yeah, no, I actually was hearing that. I'm like, hitting for the cycle. It's okay.
I thought I thought you were not impressed by that. I'm not sure why you're not impressed by it, but you're not.
Did we do a poll? What's more impressive? I think it was no-hitter versus cycle.
Yeah, I think it was something.
I think
it was
to
something
me, a
against
no-hitter.
the cycle.
What?
Yeah, it was something against the cycle.
4 home runs against the cycle?
I feel like it was something like that, or maybe 3 even.
Yeah, because a no-hitter is different.
4. I think we did 4 home runs against the cycle. 4 home runs has happened, 12 times or something?
Well, that's super. Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think the numbers are more for the cycle. Yeah, I guess the cycle is good, but do you remember all the guys who've had the cycle? I didn't. No, of course not.
No, but there's also 200 years of baseball history. I don't remember everything on any guy. I don't know how many people have pitched no-hitters or perfect games. I mean, we could do that, but I'd probably get a lot of them, but I'm not going to get them all.
Right, but I think there's a little more. Once you're a pitcher who gets a no-hitter, that puts you in kind of, that's like,
it's your
even
thing.
if you're a bad pitcher, you are labeled with that forever. I kind of lose track of who hit the cycle. That's just me. I'm not a cycle guy. Sorry.
Okay, what about Soul Cycle?
No. Is that still a big thing? I feel like
has to be.
The bike company, what's the one that everyone... Peloton killed Soul Cycle. But you can do it at home. That's what she said. Okay.
Hey, the Tigers got their first win of the young season, 9-6 in Seattle, and the Dodgers dropped the Braves 6-1. LA's now 6-0. Atlanta's 0-5, and their new left fielder, Jurickson Profar, gets an 80-game PED suspension. Paige Beckers and UConn are once again where they belong.
Left foul line extended. Strong. Hands for Beckers. Left wing 3. Got it! Paige Beckers knocks down 2 huge jumpers. She's got 25. And UConn back on top by 11, 59-48.
Sam Niederman on the Westwood One NCAA Radio Network. Beckers 31 and the Huskies 78-64 win over USC to reach their 16th Final Four in 17 years. Texas going for the first time since 2003 after beating TCU 58-47. The Lakers cooled off the Rockets for a night, 104-98. Gabe Vincent, Dorian Finney-Smith each scored 20 with 6 threes off the LA bench. And the Celtics, 117-103 winners in Memphis for the first 6-0 road trip in franchise history. Finally, from the NFL, teams are going to be allowed to wear their alternate or throwback unis 4 times during this coming season. It was 3 this past year.
Awesome.
Way to loosen up, NFL.
Love that.
The No Fun League.
Yeah,
Not
really
anymore.
changing their image. How about we could do this story a little bit later, Bogues. I don't know if this is on your list of updates. They're looking at playing a game in the United Arab Emirates. What? What? I know Brazil is a pretty far trip for the Eagles and the Packers last year, but we're going to the Middle East to play football games now?
I don't think maybe I'm naive in this. I don't think there's any chance that American football becomes what they want it to become.
In the Middle East.
Anywhere. I just think this idea that, we're going to become a global game, like I guess they're trying to do what basketball has done a little bit and try to get into the whatever soccer has developed into, which is the world's game. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry.
Well, they would probably tell you that they've already made inroads here. Like it is more popular in England than it has been, or it is more popular in Germany or Spain or all these other places. it'd have to be the opening game of the year, right? To go to the
like Brazil. But you don't have to make it a massive hit to increase sales exponentially. Like they're trying to sell merchandise overseas. So I just think, say they go to the UAE, you're probably going to see a 30% jump in that area of the world.
That's fair. And that's
Which
fair.
is any jump.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I guess to me, I'm thinking the NFL doesn't do anything for small gains, right? They're all about world domination.
I mean, the Robert Kraft quote always stood out to me. He said, we've already maxed out the Super Bowl here, so if we can just get a few more viewers overseas, then why not?
Well, there's a time difference there. Like why the Super Bowl may never max out somewhere else is because it's on in the middle of the night.
But his point, we don't need to max out at all.